Today marks International Chef's Day. The day is meant to recognize and appreciate culinary talents, creativity, as well as innovation. Nurturing culinary talent is a reminder of the heart and soul that chefs pour into their craft. This day also promotes the importance of eating healthily. For more on this conversation, we are now joined by Chef Farzana Alvarado, who's the chairperson of South African Chefs Women in Culinary. Farzana, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now tell us, beyond the beautiful dishes that chefs often make for us, what really is in celebrating Chefs International Day?
International Chef's Day is a fantastic opportunity to celebrate not just culinary talent, but also chefs around the world, the unique dishes, and, well, talking about great chefs and nurturing young culinary talents, as well as children, and teaching children how to make better choices when it comes to food. So International Chef's Day is a whole different, multifaceted day celebrating all aspects of culinary, from the people that make it happen behind the scenes, to the people that put food on our plates, to all the people involved in the sustainability chain. It all is celebrated today, International Chef's Day, in most countries throughout the world. International Chef's Day was actually started in 2004 by the late Dr. Bill Gallagher, who was also the founding member of the SA Chefs Association and a former president of the World Chefs Association. And 23 years later, here we are celebrating it with most countries around the world, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us in culinary to be able to stand up and say this is what the industry is all about.
And of course, I mean, he's South African born, and so many of our South African chefs and our culinary skills have made an impact globally. What ingredient or dish do you believe really is the most outstanding one from South Africa that really represents us internationally?
You know, South Africa is such a diverse land with a variety of food, and it would be so unfair to choose just one. There's so many that appeal to people. Food is one of those things that you can explore with ingredients, you explore with dishes. South Africa is a blessed country in the sense that we have so much to offer, from our wonderful cheeses to our indigenous ingredients to our herbs to the spices that is produced here and our world-class olive oils. I think if I had to nail it down to a few dishes, there are some that actually stand out that have made it internationally. The bunny chow would be one of it. I know of a few places in the United States and the USA where the bunny chow is actually quite a delicacy, and it is being served in restaurants. The humble milk tart, which we often take for granted as one of our most national desserts across most communities, is another taste and flavor profile that is making it onto international television in some of the cooking shows. And most recently, the boerewors has also made it on the international culinary scene.
And what about our malva pudding?
Malva pudding, definitely. That is also up there with the others. And I think, you know, the more we get into it and we talk about South African cuisine, we have to make the distinction between traditional South African cuisine that comes across from our history and the different diverse groups of people that actually call South Africa home, and then indigenous cuisine as well, where we look at indigenous traditional dishes, which obviously is now being seen on restaurants not only in South Africa but in other parts of the world as well.
Most certainly. So International Chef's Day theme for 2023 is growing great chefs. Those that are looking into taking a career of being a chef, what attributes would you say they certainly need to have in order for them to become great chefs one day?
I think first and foremost, to be a great chef, you have to really have a passion for cooking and a passion for food, for understanding your ingredients, and for finding joy in sharing your food and the things you make with other people. There is no greater joy than preparing something and somebody really truly enjoys it and you know you've made it, because you're not just creating a dish, you're actually creating an experience and a memory. Tenacity would be something else. Dedication, hardworking. These are all the attributes one would need to make a great chef. And in conjunction to all of that, I would say a thirst for knowledge, hunger, and innovation, because food is a landscape that is constantly changing on a daily, if not weekly basis. There's always some new innovation or trend that's happening in food, especially now with social media making things so much more accessible to people. One definitely has to have a thirst for knowledge coupled with dedication, commitment, and passion.
And of course, when we speak about food, we obviously, in a continent such as Africa, food security safety and nutrition is always top of mind. As an organization and as a chef, how important is it in ensuring that food is distributed equally amongst very impoverished communities across the globe, and the most nutritious food is given especially for children?
You know, in Africa, South Africa in particular, food sustainability is paramount to food security. And I think it comes down to understanding sustainability in how food is actually resourced in agriculture, in all different facets of how it's grown and farmed to table, and taking those nutritious foods and bringing it to grassroots level. The distribution chain has to be on point. I think it comes down to people working together to be able to distribute that food to impoverished communities. And also it comes down to teaching kids at school, grassroots level, how to make better choices when it comes to eating. These days, you know, we are bombarded with food that has preservatives and artificial coloring, artificial flavorants and so forth. We need to be sure that we teach them to make choices that are going to be good for body and mind.
And in speaking of food distribution, and when we're talking about from farm to plate, how important is it for us to be able to preserve our food in the most efficient way, that we're not seeing high levels of wastage when food is moved around from our farms and distributed globally?
Wastage, I think, is one of the biggest problems in the food industry. And when it comes to wastage, those who are in power to provide that food or to manufacture or to cook that food before giving it to the end consumer has to be very mindful of using every single part of an ingredient. For example, if I could talk about fine dining, and, you know, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love fine dining, but if I had to go into a fine dining restaurant and be served a piece of trout that is a 5-centimeter piece with all of the trimmings, it's all good and well for the experience, but I'm asking myself, what has happened to the other 95% of that fish that hasn't been used? Is it being sustainably used? Is it being reused, repurposed, and how? So that is something that we have to be very real about in how we actually use farm to table, be very mindful of what we're using. I always advocate for local seasonal products because you know that they are in abundance when they are seasonal. And also try to go for things that are community bound. When we buy from our local farmers, we are putting into the economy, we are rejuvenating our economy, and that goes a long way into creating sustainability within our countries.
And how important is it for us to grow our own foods in the back of our gardens, and maybe just to grow your herbs in your own kitchen? How far does that go, especially when it comes to the nutrition factor?
It's wonderful to be able to do that because obviously you're getting it fresher. I mean, anything fresher is actually still growing. You're literally picking it out of the soil and putting it onto your plate. So nutrition is at its maximum. If you are going to do that, there is so many ways that you can do it. Even if you are living in a tiny place that doesn't have much space for a garden, container gardening is something that you can actually do if you are not, you know, blessed with a large piece of land to do it. But that is really fantastic for a couple of different reasons. Nutrition being one of them, freshness being another. You know exactly what you are putting on your plate. There's no gunk on there. It's just wholesome, natural stuff. And also, it's budget friendly because you are not purchasing and throwing away and purchasing and throwing away. You literally can harvest the amount that you want when you want it. I know very often people say to me, oh, but I buy a pack of herbs, I use a small amount, and before I know it, the rest has discolored and I'm throwing it away. You are essentially throwing away money. So if you are able to actually put together a small container garden, even if it's in a little plastic container on your windowsill, it goes a really long way to actually saving money, but also giving you maximum nutrition. And at the end of the day, nothing beats freshly plucked herbs. It can take a dish to a totally elevated level. Something that is mundane and ordinary can get a really fresh spin on it, and you can really bring in those flavors just by bringing in good, natural, wholesome goodness into your kitchen. And you know what? For kids as well, if you've got kids, this is a really great opportunity to teach them about how to grow and also to teach them the value of food and growing one's own food.
Most certainly. Going back to International Chefs Day, I know South African chefs are celebrating it slightly differently with a national theme song called Singaba Pheki. Talk us through that song and how you'd want other South Africans to help celebrate South African chefs through this national anthem.
So the South African Chefs Association has been going for 48 years, and over the years we have a diverse range of chefs that form part of our platform and organization. And to date, 100% of all those who are in decision making and in the office are all South Africans. And the SA Chefs Association has put together Singabapeki. Let's break it down. Abapeki means we are cooking, and Singabapeki basically means sing, we are cooking. So this is an anthem that creates a song of fellowship, compassion, camaraderie, and creates a community for SA chefs. It's something that we all can be proud of because it is linguistically balanced. Every language, most of the languages in South Africa are represented within the song. The meaning of the lyrics is very deep, and it speaks to people of different community groups. And I think it encapsulates the meaning of SA chefs, our diversity, our variety, our talent that we bring in. South Africa is a multifaceted, diverse country with people from all sorts of culinary backgrounds, culinary traditions, and this song is something that we can really be proud of to create that fellowship among South African chefs of all walks of life.
Well, certainly. Farzana, thank you so much for your time this evening. An International Chef's Day to you, and I certainly do hope that all your work will continue to inspire others. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.